Leaderless, bankrupt America in throes of chaos and revolution. The collapse of the United States of America Corporation escalated last week into what Chinese propagandists likened to the Cultural Revolution faced by China in the 1960s and 70s. The chaos is expected to escalate further during the summer months until there's a real revolution and not this elite-engineered Cultural Revolution. The only U.S. institution maintaining its integrity in these grim circumstances is the military, which is standing by to make sure no mass bloodshed or suffering comes out of this political chaos. Meanwhile, high-level negotiations between Eastern and Western secret societies last week ended in a deadlock after Asian leaders demanded Western subservience, something that will never happen, according to sources involved in negotiations. That means the world is going to go through a very dangerous and hot summer with no clear prognosis other than accelerating chaos, especially inside the United States. There will also be an increasing danger of war using electrical, magnetic, and nuclear weaponry. Before going back to the East-West negotiations, let us take a look at what is really behind the Cultural Revolution inside the United States. Here is what the Chinese Communist government propaganda paper Global Times had to say. Neither the protesters nor Democrats have come up with practical solutions to address the long-standing racial problems, but are using the fury of the people to gain political benefit. More dramatic problems and conflicts will appear in the future, and the unrest is just the beginning. In fact, White Dragon Society sources in Canada say much of the so-called Black Lives Matter Antifa protests are being subcontracted by the Chinese communists to synagogues of Satan on the west coast of North America. This is their revenge for the attacks being orchestrated in Hong Kong, Chinese intelligence agency sources confirm. What the Chinese propagandists are not saying, though, is that the Chinese Cultural Revolution was started by factions of the Chinese Communist government that wanted to deflect popular anger away from their failed economic policies and towards their political enemies. The same can be said of the ongoing Cultural Revolution in the U.S. elites are trying to deflect anger away from the Wall Street bankers and mega corporations by stirring racial strife and trying to turn the people against the police. If we look beneath the surface, we find the Davos World Economic Forum crowd at work using their age-old out-cow order out of chaos, crowd control mechanism. There can be no mistake, the so-called coronavirus crisis and the resulting economic collapse were engineered by the Davos crowd. Now, they're offering solutions to this chaos they created in tandem with the Chinese. In the words of Davos WEF head and founder Klaus Schwab, a great reset is needed to shape the post-coronavirus era, prioritizing the need to redefine our social contract. Needless to say, they want to be in charge of redefining. Fortunately, last week, the U.S. military white hat and their fantasy family patriots took firm action last week by firmly jerking the chain of U.S. President Donald Trump when he tried to get the U.S. military to engage in an engineered civil war with foreign-paid Antifa and Black Lives Matter agents. Instead, they took discreet action to remove the Khazarian agents trying to orchestrate this civil war. These moves were made possible by the execution of top Jesuit General Adolfo Nicolas P3 Freemason, sources say. This was not coincidence because on April 29th, Fra della Torre, Knight of the Malta, also died, the sources said. The P3 and Vatican power structures are important because any Western pyramid-shaped power structure, like the military, government bureaucracy, are controlled by the P3. This is also true of medical, dental, and architect associations, etc., which involve people who have high salaries thanks to license. In any case, as a result of the changes at the top of the Vatican, the military white hats have now reasserted control over the Trump presidency. This was seen in the speech they made the Trump body double read out, NSA resources say, to the graduating class of the West Point Military Academy on June 13th. Here are some highlights. No evil force on earth can match the noble power and righteous glory of the American warrior, joined together in a common mission to protect our country, to defend our people, and to carry on the traditions of freedom, equality, and liberty that so many gave their lives to secure. You exemplify the power of shared national purpose to transcend all differences and achieve true unity. The United States military is the greatest force for peace and justice the world has ever known. Right now, America needs a class of cadets that lives by your motto, "With vision, we lead." Of course, the speech fails to mention that the US military has been fooled and misdirected into criminal behavior. Ever since the Khazarian mafia engineered their fascist coup d'etat of September 11, 2001. However, there are signs that real change is happening as US troops begin their withdrawal from Afghanistan, Iraq, Israel, and other places they never should have gone to in the first place. Nonetheless, as things stand, long-term allies in Europe, including the UK, are joining forces with the rest of the world to ensure the US military lives up to its rhetoric as the rated force for peace and justice. By allowing the prosecution of the US-Israel war criminals who murdered, tortured, and killed women, children, and non-combatants. The other issue that needs to be dealt with is the fact that Trump remains stuck in the partisan vortex, Pizzagate and Russiagate, while much bigger issues remain unsolved. The biggest unsolved problem is a failed economic system. Negative interest rates and fiat money have taken power away from real savers and real bankers and concentrated in the hands of the cabal, who own both the central banks and the Fortune 500 countries and are engaged in the giant circle jerk. They have used the money and control of the media so that political system had degenerated to the point of the dysfunction. As things stand, NSA sources say American voters face a choice between a fake Trump and fake Biden running for office via lying media and fake electronic voting. However, some real solutions are being offered by real thinkers in the establishment. Here, for example, is a proposal from former CIA and Marine Intelligence officer Robert David Steele. Wall Street had destroyed over 10,000 companies, thousands of innovations, and millions of jobs through its criminal financial practices, all condoned and enabled by the Senate Banking Committee, the Department of Justice, notably the Holder Memorandum taking jail off the table, the FBI, and the SEC. By combining data from NSA from a forced audit of the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation (DTCC) that has spit on your law since its inception and data from ShareIntel, a company ripe for acquisition by DOJ, you can completely bypass all Wall Street lawyers and decades of delay that come with lawyers and begin confiscating stocks of gold and silver, art, waterfront mansions, condos all over the world, super yachts, private airplanes, private island, and more. You were deceived when you were told that $17 trillion was all you could get. You, Binney, and I can find you another $100 to $200 trillion to help make America great again. British MI6 sources are also in revolutionary mode against the devil's elite, noting, "The theme of iconism in the now arriving world revolution is important. If momentum is kept up on recent rapid development, we envisage a total removal of what would commonly be referred to as the world government, ruling class, or as the Americans say, elite." MI6 also wanted us to take note the Queen appeared in the public on June 13 to put to rest rumors that she had died or been replaced. They note the Queen fully supports positive change in the world to whatever extent necessary. It was in the quest for positive change that the meeting between Western and Asian secret societies that took place last week. Here are some more details about the meeting from a participant. The Asian Secret Society representative said they had tens of trillions of dollars worth of gold-backed assets to put on the table. They needed an agreement with the controllers of the Federal Reserve Board in order to monetize it. The Asians wanted a 60-over-40 split in their favor. However, the Western representative insisted on a 50-50 split. The Asians wanted 60% because they control most of the world's gold and industrial capacity. However, the Western side points out that even though they had the technical capability to kill or enslave most of Asia ever since the 19th century, instead they transferred money, technology, and industrial capacity in order to help Asians improve their societies. Furthermore, the West can bring to the table futuristic technology far in advance of anything Asia has. Finally, the West needs to fully remove its satanic infection before any handover of power to Asia can be contemplated. If Asia took over the West as things stand, they would be infiltrated and rotted out from the inside by Satanists, just as has happened to the United States. The West needs to finish curing itself of disease before any handover is possible. The date of the next meeting has not yet been set, but the agents did say they needed to get some documentation together before any funds could be released. They said this could happen as early as July. Finally, this week, we would like to conclude with a report from a reader who is located inside the so-called Seattle Free Zone. This week, the Seattle police were ordered to evacuate the East Precinct on Capitol Hill. A little history, this was the same area where part of the WTO riots took place in 2000. I was on the ground for WTO. The same groups were protesting for essentially the same reasons: accountability and transparency in all forms of government. The news about this has been silent except for the alt media. Having seen itself, it's relatively peaceful and there isn't looting or widespread vandalism. Though the list of demands came from an Antifa anarchist group that doesn't speak for the rest of the community, most of the people manning the checkpoints don't want violence or destruction, just a dialogue with SPD and the mayor. As of yet, that hasn't happened. Initially, intel I've heard from law enforcement, the group who took over was setting the stage for an armed confrontation with police and National Guard. Those groups have since moved out of the area. Now it's the scavengers who are taking advantage of the situation to further their agenda, and crime is starting to pick up. Some groups have shaken down business owners for money and protection. Others have merely just stolen goods at gunpoint. As much as I'd like to see this broken down, it needs to play out so the rest of the world sees what happens when the police walk out. This is no doubt the way for the lines on the left to demoralize the police and replace the rank and fill the thugs that will do the bidding. I saw this firsthand with Rumsfeld and Obama during their respective tenures. This will not end peacefully. Violence will result when one group or the other tries to take control. Either way, this is a scripted drama for public consumption. We will see how it ends. There can be no doubt about it, folks, for better or worse. We are living through events that are unbiblical or at very least historical proportions.